Interesting you say that. What did Ronald Reagan recognize you for? I think it was in 1986 or 87.
The first National Medal of Technology was created in 1986, I think, and yeah, the president, Ronald Reagan, gave the awards to me and Steve Jobs. We're in the first set of recipients. Because Apple was, really doing a lot of good for the world then, and the economy. That always helps a president. But, Ronald Reagan was one of the early presidents that they all speak out. We got to have more emphasis on technology, on innovation. And to me, I thought, wow, they're going to have more math classes and science classes in schools. It's never happened. There's a lot of talk everywhere, but it's very hard. It'll get translated into a couple little projects that are nowhere near what you ever hear of. Intelligence in our schools is defined as always having the same answer as everyone else. You go home, you watch the same news show, you come back and talk about current events, you all say the same thing. And not one person says, no, that doesn't make sense to me. Not one person is really taught to think for themselves, or that's called not intelligence. We're taught how to calculate when two canoes will meet on a river. The river's flowing 5 miles an hour. And we should teach kids to raise their hand and say, no, that wouldn't work, because you can't predict the water will be exactly 5 miles an hour. There's going to be wind, and why don't we think about these things, be skeptical a bit. We don't really teach that way. We just teach, come up with the same answer that everyone else would. Well, then you're just one in a billion.
But isn't that kind of controversial?
That's like being a follower instead of a leader.
Isn't that kind of controversial, though? Isn't that kind of controversial to do the opposite of what everybody else has done?
Well, I think, some schools, like Montessori schools, get around, do some better job at that. But, our whole system of schools is unfortunately very bad because it's based on money. And money, especially in a democracy, you got a problem. Schools all are funded by the government. They're all funded by the government. And government has slices of pie that go into different sectors, usually according to how much money there is there or how many votes. Well, the funny thing is, for schools, kids don't get a vote. What that translates to is a family of 5 gets no more say than a family of 2. And the family of 2 doesn't want to spend money on schools. And the family of 5 does. So you've got this controversy where you're constantly outvoted by the masses. You didn't really, the kids don't get counted as a vote in the, determining how much money schools are worth and need. So schools are always going to be short of money. Short of money, it means you have to have a large class and everybody doing the same thing, and you can't have any randomness. Well, and I think randomness and even a little misbehavior is really essential to creative people.
Well, Steve, I was a kid that had a 4.0 GPA. I followed the system, the rules to the T. Everything I did perfectly. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic with you. I had a 1.0 GPA. I failed most of my classes except math. I love math. That was it. I mean, I could listen to that stuff all day long. But let's change gears. I got a question for you about this. So Steve Jobs, was Steve Jobs an expert? I mean, an expert